Hey everyone, it's Kelly. I have a new layout to share with you today for the Altenew October 2019 new release. This is their stamps, dies, and stencils new release, and it is part of a blog hop. So when this video is over, if you happen to be watching this on my YouTube channel, I do want to encourage you to head to my blog. Altenew is offering a couple different giveaways to celebrate this new release, and all the information can be found on my blog. So I'm starting this layout with a really large photo. This is the first time that I have printed a large photo on an 8.5 by 11 piece of photo paper. Typically the largest photo that I have ever used is a 5 by 7. I have used one 8 by 10 on a layout, but I modified it a little bit, and that was a long time ago. I think that was 3 years ago that I made that layout. So this was a lot of fun. I created a template in Photoshop to make the photo into a circular shape, so that way I knew the size that the photo would be, because I am planning on creating a wreath layout today. And I am using the Dot Botanicals stamp and die set. This is one of the new stamps and dies from Altenew this month. And it's a really fun stamp and die. If you watched my other video for the project that I made, I used the die set in that video as well. So this leaf set is really fun, the stamp set. It has a solid shape leaf, and then it also has this detailed image with little dots on it. So I am just using the dot image and some gray ink, and I am stamping some leaves in a circular shape. I used my photo as a little template guide there. Fussy cut the photo out, laid it on the paper, and then used a pencil to trace around the photo so I knew where the photo would be positioned. And then I'm just stamping those leaves around the photo. And I just wanted a little bit more interest on the background. It's not super noticeable. It is very subtle, but you can definitely see that it's there. And I just like that little extra something it brings to the layout. So off camera, I did a bunch of die cutting with some green cardstocks in my stash. And colored cardstock is something that I just can't seem to get enough of. I have so much cardstock, colored cardstock in my stash that I would never be able to use it all, but I continue to buy more. And I don't know what it is, some kind of compulsion, I guess, but I really want to make sure that I have all of the colors and all of the tones. And it came in handy for this layout because I was able to use a lot of different colors, and it really gives some depth and interest to the wreath as I get it adhered down. And at this point, I think that the stamping is finished. I'm going to go ahead and get my photo adhered down, and the stamping looks like a hot mess right now. But once I get those leaves added on top, you're not going to see very much of it. Again, it's very subtle. It's just going to kind of peek out around the edges of those die cut leaves. So this photo is a professional photo that we had taken last year. I've mentioned this on my channel lots of different times because I use lots of these photos from our family photo shoots. But my sister is a photographer. She is a fantastic photographer. She has actually won numerous awards for her photography, and she does our family photo shoot every year. She actually gets all of us together. So my older sister and her family, my brother, my parents, and my younger sister is the photographer, so her husband and her son. And we all get together and do a large family photo shoot, and it's a lot of fun. We all get to spend that time together, and the pictures are always fantastic. So this is another die that is included in this new release, and I'm trying to show you here in the camera, but it's difficult to see in the light, so I'm going to bring the actual die in. It is a string art die, and there are a few different string art shapes included in this new release. And I received the butterfly, and it creates the little pinholes in the paper for you to add the stitching to create the string art. Now, if you were making a card, you could put this directly onto your card base and add the stitching, but I wanted to use it as an embellishment. So I put 3 on those scrap pieces of cardstock that I had, and I added hand stitching using some ombre embroidery floss. And I did it in some fall colors because these photos were taken in the fall. And so I used the yellow/orange color, the purple, and then a true orange that has a little bit of red mixed in with it. And I think I made 9 of these, and they do take a little time to put together depending on how much stitching you want to add to them. And I only end up using 6 of them, but again, it's something that I can keep in my stash and use as an embellishment later on. I just kept them attached to the scrap piece of cardstock. So whether or not I want to use them as an embellishment or something different, I have the option there. Now I did add some green machine stitching around that wreath just to secure those leaves down. And then I'm going to use some liquid adhesive to adhere the butterflies down. I did a little bit of machine stitching on those butterflies as well. I didn't add any of the string art in the center of the butterfly, and I felt like the white was showing, it was pretty bright. And so I just used my sewing machine and added some stitching in a matching color just to fill in a little bit of that white. I also left the threads a little long to make it look like they have antenna coming off the top part of the butterfly. So now it was getting to the point in the layout where I needed to think about a title, and I really wasn't sure what to even do for the title. I have a hard time coming up with titles, especially with photos that are of a generic nature, like this family photo shoot. And I knew that I didn't have a lot of room for a title on this layout. It was already very busy with the wreath and the butterflies and the large photo. So I thought about using some of the black alpha stickers from a couple of the Altenew scrapbook collections. But again, I just wasn't sure what I would even use for the title. So I remembered that I had these wood veneer words, and I thought, oh, I wonder if one of those would work. And I thought this word love would be perfect. It's a really pretty scripty font, but I didn't want to use the wood veneer color. I felt like it would blend in a little bit too much on the layout. So I decided to alter it slightly by adding some black acrylic paint just to help it pop off the layout. Now I'm also going to add the word us with the title. So it's going to be Love Us. And I grabbed the black puffy stickers from the Live Your Dream scrapbook collection. And I wasn't sure where to position it. At first I thought about putting it on top of the butterflies, but I didn't really want to cover those up. I really like the detail that those bring to the layout. I did decide to go ahead and add some of these hearts, and I did a big boo-boo here. The paint was not fully dry, and I put it on the layout, and the paint smudged on my white cardstock. So I was about in a panic because I already had the stitching done around the wreath and everything was adhered down, and I did not want to have to tear it up and start over. So I decided to grab my craft knife, and I'm just kind of buffing off that top layer of the white cardstock, and you can't even really tell. So I was so happy that I was able to salvage this. So note to self, be careful with black acrylic paint when you're using a white cardstock background. And I do another huge blunder a little bit later on in this video that you're going to see. So I decided to move on from the black acrylic paint and just use a black alcohol marker to color those remaining hearts. I thought it would be a lot less messy and that I wouldn't have to worry about smudging paint all over my background. But you're going to see here in just a moment that that didn't really matter because I smudged the paint yet again. So right now I'm just trying to figure out how many of those hearts I want to add onto the layout. And I think that I'm pretty happy with the balance with the title and then those hearts up around the butterflies on the top left-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and start adhering things down. And I am just going to adhere all of that down with liquid adhesive. I want to make sure that those alphas and the wood veneer all stick. The wood veneer, they do have adhesive on the back of them, but I wanted to make sure that they weren't going to fall off the layout. I typically put my photos in, or excuse me, I typically put my layouts in a pile and they don't move into a scrapbook album until later on in the year. So I wanted to make sure I didn't lose any embellishments. And right there is where I did that second blunder. I had paint on that carrier sheet from the wood veneer and it smeared all over the bottom left hand side of my layout. I'm talking a lot of paint. So this one was even more of a panic moment. But again, I'm just using my craft knife and I'm just scraping off that top layer of the white cardstock. And again, you can barely even tell, but at this point I decided that I would probably need to add some black splatters to the layout just to help cover up any areas that I missed. Now I'm also using a piece of sandpaper here just to smooth the roughness from where I was buffing that with my craft knife. And here come the black splatters. Now normally I'm not too worried about the splatters getting on my photo because I typically print my smaller photos using my selfie printer, and it is a waterproof photo paper, so if anything gets on the photo I can wipe it off. But this photo paper is not waterproof, so I did use a piece of plastic initially to cover up the photo, but then I was worried about the black splatters smearing if I was shifting the plastic around as I was adding the splatter, so I took it off and tried to use my hand to shield the picture and the butterflies and everything. And I was successful. The splatters didn't really end up anywhere that I didn't want them to go. So all is good and well at the end of this layout. So here I'm just showing you the layout in a little bit more detail. I am going to bring up some still shots at the end. I do have a few more photos on my blog post. And again, I do want to encourage you to head there to check out all of the info on the giveaways that Altenew is offering. And I do want to thank you all so much for watching. I will be back again soon with a new layout and process video.